This is the Samsung S95C, and I think it's the best TV I've ever owned. Now, I picked this up a couple of weeks ago. I almost didn't buy this TV. I almost bought an LG G3, but I think there are two key reasons why you should buy this one instead, being connectivity and pricing, which I'll explain more in a moment. But there are also a few things to watch out for. Now, unboxing is a pretty seamless experience. Now, if you need to know, here are the measurements on the box for the 65-inch model. It is pretty big, so I'm not sure it would fit in your car. Now, in the box comes the TV stand, two different remotes, a pair of batteries, a power lead, which us Brits call a kettle lead because it's the same one that powers our kettles to make a cup of tea, being Brits, and it means you can buy a longer lead if you need one. Now, you also get the OneConnect BOX and two different length OneConnect cables. Even though a stand does come in the box, I opted to reuse the wall mount I was already using on my 55-inch TV, so I just attached the brackets. I also bought the Govee T2 TV backlight, which was just a simple case of attaching the LED strip to the back of the TV, but more on that later. And then once it was up on the wall, it was just a case of running through the setup wizard, which for some reason works about 50% of the time with Samsung devices I've owned, so I had to go back and do it all manually on the TV anyway. Now, the S95C has all of the usual specs you'd come to expect. 4K, 144 Hz, variable refresh rate, and some of the best picture quality you've seen before. But after reading Samsung's own reviews, apparently everybody who scored the TV with a 5-star had also coincidentally been gifted a free 77-inch TV in exchange for that review. So I wondered if this TV would actually be any good. So after a few weeks now with the 65-inch model of the S95C, using it for both streaming content and playing on the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch, I thought I'd share my thoughts with you on why I do think this is a great TV and one that I'd still pick, I think, over pretty much any other TV, though there are a few caveats and it's not quite 5 stars. And the first thing that everybody who has walked into this room has noticed is the incredible picture quality on this screen. Now, it is really obvious when watching content that has been shot in HDR, but regardless of whether you are watching movies, TV, HDR content, or SDR content, on this TV, it looks fantastic. Now, the first movie I watched was the new Avatar: Way of the Water. I was actually waiting for this TV to arrive before I watched this film, and this film perfectly demonstrates the incredible performance of this screen. Now, the picture quality, the black levels, the brightness, the HDR performance, all together looks so nice. Black areas of the screen stay absolutely pitch black, whilst contrasting scenes with both bright objects and darkness can almost make you need to squint. It has been a noticeable step up from our previous Samsung LED TV, and even a big step up from the LG C1 that I previously reviewed. And speaking of which, Dolby Vision. Now, when I first researched this TV, Dolby Vision was something that I wanted, mainly due to my experience of Dolby Vision content on my LG C1. But I have to say that after using the S95C now for a few weeks, I'm not missing anything. Content looks better on here than my Dolby Vision TV in the other room, so I wouldn't personally get hung up on the fact that it's a missing feature, since you've still got HDR10, HDR10 Plus support on here as well. Now, I almost didn't buy this one because of the whole Dolby Vision thing, but I read up a ton on Reddit groups, reviews, forums, and everybody who had compared these TVs side by side with the LG G3 could barely notice any differences. One of the concerns I did have with any TV in this room is that with our placement above the fireplace, it means we have a ton of light coming from, well, all angles really. From outside, which is south facing, and it gets quite bright at times. We also have some pretty badly positioned lights in our room, some directly above the TV, and some further back into the room. So first of all, with the TV switched off and with the lights off, but still in a very bright room, the screen is just this portal of darkness, and you can barely see any reflections when looking head on. Now, if I come around to the side of it, then you can clearly see the reflections there, but this is kind of basically as bad as it gets, because as soon as you turn the TV on, the sheer brightness of the OLED panel does reduce a lot of the reflections and kind of shines through it, but admittedly, not all of them. And honestly, this TV is so bright that it made it really tricky to shoot footage of it, as I either had to turn the brightness down to practically 0 on the TV, or change the camera so it looked like I was shooting in like practically darkness, even though it's like the middle of the day. So forgive me, I'm still learning here. Now, the only thing I tend to do here is, if we really want to sit down and enjoy watching a movie, is turn off the main lights in our room. But again, that's because of just a stupid placement above the fireplace, and it just so happens that the angle for where we're sat down perfectly reflects like those big lights. But if you've put your TV in a more sensible position than me, then you'll have even less issues with reflections, because generally speaking, this TV deals with them very well. Now, in terms of viewing angles, this is one of the best best things about the newest OLEDs is that you can be sat at quite extreme angles to the TV and still get to experience the rich colors, the deep black levels, without any noticeable change in color, with the only exception being the reflections, which coincidentally is pretty noticeable when you're sat on one of our sofas in our lounge. But if you're watching from a distance and off to the side, you're still going to get a great experience. But this TV isn't just good for watching like TV, movies, and streaming content. It also performs really well for gaming across all the consoles I own. You get 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, with all of them capable of running a full 144Hz for the best gaming experience possible. And if you're playing on the latest consoles such as the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, then you'll be able to reach their maximum FPS in games where it's supported. And because this TV also supports VRR, variable refresh rate, it means that any game you play on this TV will be stutter-free, as the console and TV can ramp up and ramp down as necessary, giving you like the best image quality. Similarly, with the image quality, the brightness levels of the OLED panel, the blacks, and just everything combined, it makes the picture quality when gaming the best I've experienced before. Scenes from Spider-Man still look incredible, even today, and games like Fortnite or Forza look incredible, regardless of types of games you like to play. You also get AMD FreeSync Premium Pro and a 0.1 millisecond response time for the absolute best gaming experience. And aside from Dolby Vision, they check all of the boxes for both PS5 and your Xbox Series X consoles. There's also a couple of extra features which you can use to boost your gaming performance if you choose to, via the updated game bar feature, such as a minimap zoom, which does kind of what it says on the box and basically gives you a much larger view of the minimap when playing games, though it does shrink the actual game to make space, so there's kind of a trade-off there. But the one feature that I like the most about this TV above all others, and also the one reason why I bought this TV, was its design. Yes, of course, you've got the thin, near bezel-less surround, and the TV itself is basically as thin as an iPhone. And the feature, which is the reason why I bought this over the LG, is the OneConnect box. Now, this box houses all of the connections. It is totally separate from the main TV, and it means you can place your TV in one place and have all of the messy wires in another place. You see, when looking at other options like the LG G3, all of the wires have to go straight into the TV, and the power cable is even hardwired, so you can't even extend it. That would mean I would need to get a power socket installed behind the TV, and if I want to have the TV flush against the wall, I'd even need to like cut a box into the wall where all the wires and power socket would go. So if you like the look of having a TV on your wall without any of the hassle of like dealing with cable management, get this TV. And all you have is this really thin OneConnect cable that you can put inside some really thin trunking, paint it in the same color as your wall, and you barely notice it. Honestly, I still need to replace this thick trunking from my old TV and replace it with new thinner trunking, but that's a job for another day. Now, you also do get a stand in the box if you don't wish to wall mount it. Another thing that the G3 doesn't have, and it's a really solid stand that doesn't take up too much space. And with this stand, you can place the OneConnect box on the back of the stand and then use the included short OneConnect cable to hook everything up. Onto the LED strip now, and this was another reason why I bought this TV over the others, is that it has the perfect surface to be able to mount LED strips around the edge, and it's something I've been wanting to fit to my TV for a very long time now. Govee recently reached out to ask if they could sponsor a video, and since I was going to pick up this TV anyway, well, it just made perfect sense. So the T2 kit itself comes with everything you need to get this working, and the T2 works via a camera system instead of something like a HDMI sync box, and this camera gives it the ability to be the most accurate and the best color match for what you're seeing on screen. Now, all of this is controlled by a dual camera that sits on top of the TV, which looks down onto the content you're watching, so no matter if you're watching a movie or playing a game or even using the TV's own built-in menu, you're going to get the same experience. Using Avatar as an example, the difference in immersiveness and the whole just overall experience of watching this film with it off compared to when it's on, and it just takes it to a whole other level. The one caveat that I would say is that it looks better further your TV is away from your wall. Now, mine is mounted really up close, and with a dark wall behind it, which is basically everything you shouldn't do to make the most of these LED strips, but I am not going to argue with my wife over decor. Now, it's also really easy to install. Just attach the LED strip to the back and then hook them up to this little box along with a camera, and you're good to go. And there's actually a science behind placing LEDs behind your TV, with its official name being bias lighting. And reading from Wikipedia, bias lighting reduces eye strain and fatigue that occurs when viewing a bright display against a very dark background for an extended time. It increases the perceived blackness, perceived highlights, and overall contrast of the display. So you can set them to a fixed color if you really want to use them that way, but I've really enjoyed having the games I've played or the movies I've watching to be enhanced by the T2. And there's a setting in the app which lets you switch between movie mode and game mode, which allows the light strips to either react faster or slower, depending on what you're watching. They are also about to launch a new AI gaming sync box with backlights on July the 10th, which has additional features for more hardcore gamers, which is also worth checking out, and I'll leave a link in the description to check them out for yourself. Now, there is one area of the S95C which I feel does let it down slightly, and that is Tizen OS. Now, I have this on my 49-inch Samsung G9 OLED monitor, and 99% of the time, you just don't need to use it. But when you do, it just feels a bit slow and clunky at times. Now, this is an area where I do prefer LG software. In fact, there have been a couple of times where I've been in the middle of a game and I've switched back over to the TV to quickly catch something, only to be stuck waiting for the remote control to respond to change it back to the game, where I'm pretty sure I'm just dead already. So yeah, that sucks. But for those who aren't really into their gaming, there is a whole cloud gaming section where you can stream titles from the likes of Xbox Cloud Gaming. But it is something I'd only ever recommend if you desperately wanted to play something, or if you're playing a game that doesn't involve your reactions against other players. In reality though, I barely ever need to touch the menu system, since the inputs auto switch when a device is active. We don't need a remote to change the input source, so most of the time we just use the Apple TV remote to control everything, as it's just way easier for the kids just to use one remote control. Now, there is a remote control that comes in the box, which has buttons to jump to various streaming platforms, and an old school remote too, but I only need to pull these out when I really want to change like the picture modes or to tweak some gaming mode settings. Now, as far as the audio quality goes, the S95C does a reasonable job with the built-in Dolby Atmos speaker system, but like many TVs, it is lacking in some areas, and noticeably the bass. So most people will of course get a much better experience with a soundbar or a dedicated speaker system, and I'll play a comparison here between the standard audio and my now years old 5.1 surround system. A few additional features here for the S95C, and first up is wireless Samsung DeX for those Samsung smartphone users out there, which allows you to use the TV essentially as a computer monitor and multitask with just your phone, which is pretty nuts. And the second feature here is mobile tap mirroring, and I like this. As a recent convert to the S23 Ultra, I can walk up to my TV, tap the phone on the side, and my content on my phone screen will automatically appear on the screen. And not only that, but if the TV is off, it will also switch the TV on and then show it. Like, pretty cool if you want to show your friends something on your phone without everyone having to like crowd around a tiny screen. And the second reason why I bought this over the G3 OLED is the pricing, because the S95C, whilst its features and image quality I feel are on par with the G3, comes in staggeringly cheaper. Now, I can currently buy the G3 for about £3,200, but right now the S95C is over £1,000 cheaper. Now, the difference is that the G3 includes the wall mount in the box, whereas that is extra with the S95C, but even then, it is still vastly more expensive. So, as far as I'm concerned, the S95C is the best TV you can buy today for gaming, for watching movies, and streaming content. But there is another screen that I've bought recently that's had an even bigger impact on my content consumption and my productivity. So check out this video where I'll show you what it is and why you need to consider upgrading.